Like with the economy, with the cost of living, I see a lot of people like they'll have good jobs, but they're still starting side hustles, which is like, I love to see it, but it kind of sucks too that they have to do that.
It sucks if someone has to do it out of necessity, but I feel like one of the greatest things about why you might want to start a business is it's going to grow you like nothing else, I feel like. Because like we were talking about these organizational charts where you're going to have to be the salesperson, you're going to have to be doing marketing, you're going to have to be doing research, hosting, editing, all of these roles is going to expand you like not many other things are going to do. And because it's your own business or your own side hustle, you have the creative control. So it might be one of the most satisfying things that you ever do. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Today's podcast is going to be about building and growing a business. I'm here today with my friend Zach Louis-Seize, who is a business owner of Crown Heart Visuals, also kind of a legend in the cryptocurrency community. Zach, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. Great to be here.
Yeah. Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about your business and also why I call you a legend in the cryptocurrency community?
Yeah, no, 100%. So I do video for health and fitness businesses. So what my business focuses on is providing strategic content for these businesses so they can speak to their ideal client, attract more leads, customers, make more sales, sell more products. So it's like kind of like video marketing type of thing. So producing content, whether that's ads to run on Facebook ads, content for their website, content for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, like the big platforms.
Right. Yeah. And you've been getting a lot of positive feedback, like whether that's like Google reviews or the crypto thing that I mentioned. I saw that you entered a contest for one of like a crypto magazine, right? And submitted a video and got first place prize, which is a pretty big deal. I feel like, I don't know about for you, but I feel like when you put your business to the test and you get raw results that when competing against hundreds of other people, you actually were number one. Was that like a big confidence booster to know that, well, when I put my product against other people in a marketplace, people will vote for mine?
100%. Dude, it was like, when I got the news, like when I found out on the Discord and I saw the picture, like of my name on the check, I almost couldn't believe it. Because it was like 700 people competing. And just to give some context, so it was a Bitcoin like hackathon held by Bitcoin magazine at the Bitcoin conference. And the track I submitted to was the propaganda track, which is basically, so I made a video campaign. And the campaign was about basically inspiring entrepreneurs and small business owners to adopt Bitcoin for seamless payment solutions.
Right.
So I did, I recorded a video at my office. I did it in one day. The script kind of wrote itself because to me it was it was based off some of the experience I had with some of my international clients receiving money through the banks. Yeah. I found like it's a lengthy process, and like there's like bank fees, there's wait times. So basically just by using Bitcoin as part of this campaign, you get your payment instantly, even from an international client, whether they're from US or wherever. Yeah. Like just to avoid all like the fees and the wait times and stuff like that.
Yeah, that video was really well done and definitely persuasive, actually. There was like a bit of an attack, a shot at PayPal, but
a little bit, yeah. But so PayPal, they actually I spoke with them. So I was trying to get a payment from one of my clients, and I was setting up a PayPal account. I was talking to them on the phone. They're like, "Oh, just a heads up, your account's been inactive for what was it, like a few months or like a few years or something like that." Yeah. So since your account's been inactive, your money's going to be put on hold for 21 days. Right. So it's like, well, do I really want to use your platform if you're going to put my money on hold for 21 days? I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Right. Yeah. So basically, it was a legitimate.
It was a legitimate thing. So they actually put your money on hold at times to verify your identity, which I can understand. But for a lot of businesses, especially small businesses or entrepreneurs, it can create some serious cash flow issues. Like if you're not getting paid for like a month or whatever, like 2 months, it's like type of thing.
I feel like that's a good testament to when you're creating a video, it really helps to actually believe in the thing you're promoting as well. Like in that case, you actually you do like crypto, and you actually had a legitimate issue with PayPal, and so then you're creating a video about it, and it's real. It's like you actually had those experiences. Versus, I'd imagine some people, especially in the video business, they might get hired to create some sort of content, and they have like little to do with it. They don't really have much of a background. Right. So I'd imagine that's great. I do want to take like a bit of a step back in terms of like how long have you been doing your video business, and also kind of what brought you into that business specifically, and business in general?
So I went full time like about a year ago in my business. I like when I was making videos in college. Actually, I was helping out originally with your podcast a little bit. My friend Justin, his podcast, helping out there, and through that I was getting clients just through editing and doing videos. And I loved editing, and I loved being able to create things. Like it's just something that I really just fell in love with doing, being able to create, like add soundtracks, tell stories, do like cool cuts and stuff like that. But through that I was making like real money, getting some real clientele just through referrals. Right. And I'm like, so like at that time, like, well, if I can figure out how to make like real money doing this, I gotta at least try. So that's what, like about like a year and a half ago, I decided to go full time into my business.
It's amazing for people to take that leap and try to create a business. I feel like a lot of people out there, they might have some ideas in the back of their head where maybe I could make a business out of this or this, and they want to take the jump. And hopefully this podcast will actually help lay that out, because I want to get into like talking about that, why people might want to join or create a business, but not necessarily just for people trying to start a business. People maybe who already own a business, or maybe just even they're part of a business, they're not the owner. How you can grow a business, how you can ensure that you provide value to the business and provide value to customers.
100%. I think it's
social media,
good.
Branding, marketing, all this stuff I want to get into today. So, for you making that leap, was it kind of a easy decision? Like you were really passionate about it, or was it, were you a bit hesitant? Because I imagine there's a lot of people out there listening that if they have something in mind, they might be a bit hesitant. They're scared for one reason or the other.
So hesitant, yes, but I was like kind of like, I wasn't like too scared to go like all in. I just like, I saw an opportunity and I went for it.
Right.
Like I saw like the future, I had a plan. I saw the money potential in it. And also like I think the most important thing is, if you're going to like launch a business or start a business, is understanding your why. Right. So I knew why I wanted to do this. Like I want to have like a family one day, be able to provide for them and be able to be there, spend time with them, help out with my community, help out my friends, just have that sort of like financial freedom and access, and not just like money. So like money isn't just the only thing, but time, which is super important. So understanding that, I felt like the only way I could do that was going full, like all in on my business.
Right.
I feel like this is the best way for myself to do that. Because I was looking at the job market. I was even applying for jobs in software, because I got my degree in software.
Right.
I feel like not a lot of luck there, but even if I were to get lucky, I would be making what, $20 an hour, $30 an hour, and like after years. And I just couldn't see myself, like the life I want to build, it wouldn't have been attainable, I feel like, through that.
Yeah, there's a lot more creative control, and also just lifestyle control. I feel like especially if you take the time to set up the foundation of your business right off the start and envision what this business is going to look like and what that means in terms of finances, but also in terms of lifestyle and freedom. Because you do hear stories sometimes of people setting up a business, and then next thing you know, they're working 80 hours a week and they 100%. Hate their life and they burn themselves out, and they have to drop their business because of that.
That's another thing. So I will say, like for myself, when I first started, I expected, and I still do expect, the first 2-3 years, it's pretty like, I'm willing to sacrifice. It's going to be nonstop. Yeah. And I feel like if you're going to start a business, you have to at least have that mindset. Like, don't expect to not be like, to like not have to put in the work.
Right.
Like you're transferring a 9 to 5 for a 5 to 9. Like you're basically working like a lot more, and like 7 days a week sometimes, because there's always something to do like in your business. There's always more things to do.
Right. Yeah.
So it's almost like you're nonstop working. So it's not like necessarily as glamorous as it may sound to a lot of people like who are thinking about like
For
first
sure.
starting off. So understanding that, like the reality of like starting a business at first is super important, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing for anybody who's thinking of starting a business, is to get like the total real picture of what this will actually look like, but also create a good foundation so that you don't end up running a business that you hate or not enjoying your
Right.
life because of your business. And I think some of those foundational aspects are what, if people don't get them right, it leads to a lot of small businesses failing. 'Cause I looked
100%.
up on Stats Canada, and I think it said like 50% of small businesses disappear after the first year. And then-
Disappear.
Well,
like they
go-
vanish.
yeah,
They
yeah.
vanish out of thin air.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it
like a
actually
magic.
so it's 50%?
I think it was 50.
I
Yeah.
thought, like, I heard, what was it, a stat? It's almost like 90% of businesses fail, or
So
like over the long term or something like that, right?
Well, they did say, I forget what it was exactly, but it was like after that first year, the rest that survived the first year, they slowly start to disappear as well, or go broke or whatever.
So like overall, maybe like 80 to 90% of businesses get wiped out.
Yeah.
Or like just don't make it to the long haul.
And there was a quote that I really liked, or I'll paraphrase it, but it was basically like a lot of these businesses that do fail, they don't necessarily do the planning and the thinking and the preparing at the beginning. So if you are to do all of that and build a solid foundation, maybe you increase your odds from like 10% end up surviving to maybe 50%. You know what I mean? So like
100%.
most of the businesses that start might not do the adequate amount of preparing and planning and thinking.
Yeah.
And so like let's talk about some of that, how it went down for you. Like when you were first starting, how did you map this out? Like how did you envision where you wanted to go, and did you lay down like a foundation for many aspects, like financially, how are you going to do it? Like how many work hours, like in what timeline, things like that?
Yeah, so for myself, it was more having like a long-term plan, where I was seeing the business going, and also having those first clients. So like a steady stream of income at first when you go all in,
Right.
so that you know you have some income coming in. I find it super important this way, because if you go all in and you have zero clients, or you've sold, like say you sold zero product,
Yeah.
like then it's very stressful, because then you're kind of, your back's against the wall the whole time. And to some extent, it's always going to be in business.
Yeah, and I think the foundation, one of the most important parts of laying that out is to prevent surprises later. Like I could imagine you get into a business and then you realize like, holy shit, I'm working 80 hours a week. But if you
Right.
lay
Like
out this
you're working
foundation
in the
and-
business, but not on the business too.
yeah,
Like there's a big difference between, so this is another thing that like I found, and that's something I had to learn like since I first started. Because when I first started, and still some days, like I'm working very much in the business. Like at this point, I'm pretty much an employee for my business.
Yeah.
I'm not working like on the business type of thing.
Yeah.
Or no, well, I am working on the business now. But when you first start, like you're basically doing everything: the marketing, the sales, the accounting,
and
the fulfillment, the videos. You're basically doing everything yourself when you first start. But then as you grow, you can start delegating, hiring more people, building out a team.
Right.
And this is where you can start building, like actually owning a business as opposed to being an employee in your business. But I feel like when you first start like any business, you got to expect to be that employee, or at least putting in the work in like many different things. It's where a lot of small business owners, I see what they're doing, or that they struggle with, is they're wearing so many different hats, right?
Right.
So you're doing the sales, you're doing the marketing. Now you have to do social media content. Some people
Yeah,
like doing
yeah.
dances and stuff like that, like on like TikTok, and like like they'll work to go
Yeah.
viral sometimes. But
And I think that's like what is meant by the foundation, is recognizing all the roles that are going to be involved in this business.
Right.
Because I think that's something that surprises people, is you might get started in a business and realize, okay, what about the sales? What about the distribution? What about the researching? What about the analysis? What about the marketing? And if you were to lay this all out at the beginning, I feel like your chances of success are going to be a lot higher, because you're going to prepare and you're going to know, okay, well, who's going to fill all these roles? And one of the books I was reading, they recommend actually creating an organizational chart at the beginning when you're starting a business, and writing out all those roles. And if it's currently just you, assign your name to all of them. But then you have to expect that.
So, like,
well,
kinda
I'm
like
gonna
a
have to
chart
play all of these roles.
that'll like lay out. So like sales, marketing,
Yeah.
accounting,
And who-
fulfillment.
Yeah,
type of thing.
and you could have like the chart go as deep as you think you're gonna have employees. So you could have like a senior VP of sales. You could have like a assistant salesperson or whatever. But when you're assigning your name to all of these tasks, and I was thinking about it, I'll just to give a more concrete example so people can understand what I'm saying here. I was thinking about it for my podcast. Like, what does that actually involve? And so there was like the hosting aspect. So then there's the editing aspect.
Because this is, at the end of the day, a podcast. When you're hosting a podcast, like, this is a business also. And I think it's actually good to define like what a business is. A business doesn't have to be like this big thing or like you like tons of clients or staff. Like, if you're selling like cookies to your neighbors and you're making money off that, that's a business. Yeah. Like, there's like small like side hustles and stuff like that. But there's many things that are like actually technically businesses, like regardless of like their size or their depth type of thing.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
If someone's paying for you for a service or a product, that by definition is a business. It doesn't have to be your full-time thing, but you have a small business. If you want, you can build that up to scale that out and then maybe have it take over your full-time job if you're super passionate about it.
Right. Yeah.
Which is like,
for sure.
You know what I mean? Which is important, like, which I think part of the reason why a big part of the reason why you launched your podcast, and correct me if I'm wrong, is because you're passionate about this. You're genuine about having like actual and real conversations, learning about topics, like speaking to experts, or non-experts, well, speaking to the crypto, like crypto award winners.
Yeah. But I mean, not to downplay what you've accomplished, because I think in the past year where you started is quite
not
good.
A whole lot, but not a whole yet.
But to be honest, when I saw you're winning those prizes, I was like, holy shit! Like, I would imagine that would bring a lot more assurance, because I think that's something 100%. That's scary about when people are starting a business. There's going to be a lot for most people. I think when you're starting, you're throwing a lot of stuff against the wall. You don't know what's going to work. And you might not be getting much positive feedback at all.
100%. I will say so for myself, like the biggest thing, like I don't care about like fame or like awards or like getting like these things. The most important thing is like obviously delivering results to my clients, but is like, to me, success is like, am I able to have a successful or like profitable business? Am I able to make a living off this? Am I able to actually deliver results to my clients? And that's the only thing that I focus on, the only thing that really matters to me. Even though like this award, it's nice, and part of the reason I applied to it, like, the money is nice, but what's going to be cool about it, like you're saying, it's like a proof of concept. Like I won a video ad campaign competition, like in Bitcoin magazine, like the judges of that scored it like first place. So that's kind of like, okay, I actually kind of know what I'm doing. If like experts in their field are judging me first place, so I can add. Like, that's another thing I'm thinking about adding. Was it changing my website? Like, award-winning video. Now I can say we're an award-winning video production company type of thing, which is like a cool.
I feel like a lot of businesses, it can be like exponential growth for that reason. Because once you start to get positive results, you can like add that to your business, and then more people are going to want to use you. So it really is tough when you're first starting, because 100%. You have no positive feedback. You have no customers that are doing word of mouth recommendations. You have nothing. So you're starting from ground zero. I do want to get back to that just kind of foundational element of the organizational chart. And I want to ask you, 100%. Like, if you were to think about what your organizational chart would be, let me know. And
huge.
There's going to be 1 million employees.
I don't know if there's enough wall space here for my organization now. I want it super small.
But even if it's just small, like, I'll continue with mine, and mine right now is literally just me and on the podcast. So it would go like the editing. So I put my name on that, distribution, sales, research.
And so I don't mean to interrupt, but just to touch on that, if I were you, the first thing, like if you were to delegate or hire someone, would be the editor.
Oh, 100%.
Because that's the most time.
That's the one that I have thought of, because that does consume a lot of my time.
Same thing for my business. Like, that's what I'm finding. So this is one thing, like, took me a while to learn. Like, in my business, I'm spending probably like 70-80% of the time is like editing videos. So like, we do pre-production, we shoot in person, we do all these things in person, but most of the time spent on editing. So this is like the first thing that I'm focusing. If I want to scale or grow my business, I need to be delegating this task specifically first. Like this is one of the most important hires like on my end type of thing. But yeah, let's
and this thing, I think, let me know what you think about this, because I think it could be valuable for any business. So like if you were to lay out this organizational chart, and even if it is just you doing all of these things, like right now I am doing the editing, but I would write down a description of what is the editor to do and what makes a good editor. And then I'd go on the next one, and I go to the research. Yeah, exactly.
You mean like so like say you hire an editor, so you have a system in place for that editor.
Yeah, having a system and writing down like what I would want if I was to delegate this to somebody else. How would I want them to do it? But right now it's currently me. But how would I want to do it?
Yeah.
And to think about what are the most effective and efficient things you could do. And I want to get into that a bit later. Is like how to make your business as effective and efficient.
Yeah.
But to avoid bouncing around too much, I'll just continue to go through the
let's laser focus here. So I keep tangents.
But yeah, so like for the podcast, I would have those things that I name, kind of like research, like analysis, some marketing and branding.
What do you spend the most time on?
The most time, I do spend a lot of time on research.
Yeah,
and this is a good question that I think anybody should ask themselves after they've made their organizational chart and wrote down the descriptions, is where are you spending a lot of time and which things are leading to the most positive results? Because I feel like if you're assessing time versus value, you can start to trim down things. Like if I'm spending 20 hours researching and I find that it doesn't actually lead to much results, okay, maybe find a more efficient way to research. Or if I'm spending so much time editing and I'm a perfectionist and I want to make all the lighting perfect on all the editing,
done that.
But it doesn't lead to much results at all.
No one even notices. You're like you're like up at 2 a.m. like editing this one, like, oh, the sound like doing this or like this transition. No one's gonna notice. Like no one's like paying, like there's so much like an influx of content. Like
so I think you write down all the roles and realize what roles produce the most positive results.
Right.
And within each role, are there things that I'm doing that I don't need to be doing
or that I could save time for? The 80-20 rule. So 100%. Figure out which is like a biggest thing I found for my business as well. It's kind of like, well, the book that you're reading, like we've like
the 80-20, I'll just explain that quick and then you can 100%. Get into that. Like the 80-20 rule is just about how basically your inputs and outputs are not always equal. So like another way of saying that would be the reason they call it 80-20 is that 20% of what you do might produce 80% of your positive results. Or if you reverse that, 80% of what you're doing is only producing 20% of your positive results. So look at that 80% of the things that you're doing that are only producing 20 and maybe cut down spending time on that. So that's kind of what we're saying with the editing. If 80% of the stuff you're doing when you're editing is not leading to a better video, focus on the 20% of stuff that you are doing when you're editing and perfect that. And I feel like you want to do that for all of the roles within your business.
Oh, that's interesting. So not just apply it generally to your business, but to each role even.
I would say
like to the editing role, to the research role. Like
research role, don't be wasting time in spending time researching on things you don't need to be doing. Even for like researching for the podcast, a lot of what I need to get better at is I'll write down a ton of notes and then I might have pages and pages of notes, but I don't prepare it summarized enough so that I can just quickly review it. And also I need to treat this like it's an actual role that I'd be hiring somebody for, and I need to get my research summary done about a week before the podcast. Whereas a lot of the time,
why do you have to get it done a week before?
Just so that I have time to
digest,
just to digest, to review it, maybe slightly tweak it. But I find a lot of time what ends up happening is I'm barely even done the research and I'm scrambling to finish it maybe like the day before or something. And so I don't have a ton of time to process it. Now I have 10 pages of notes and I'm like, fuck, like there's a lot of good little bits.
It's almost overwhelmed, like it's too long. So you want to like condense it.
Yeah.
Use ChatGPT for that.
Well, ChatGPT,
I would recommend ChatGPT in this scenario.
I might,
that'd be the perfect research assistant if you ask me.
It might be good. The thing that I like about manually editing it is that it forces me to actually read it more and more times and like and make concise sentences about each of the things that I want to do. But ChatGPT, I think you could apply AI to a lot of these things. And just to give one more example, and then we can kind of get into for your business, what these roles might be and how you think you could make some of them more efficient. But one other aspect is the distribution. So that would be on social media. So anybody who's distributing their content or their business on social media, again, the same 80-20 principle would apply. Think about which social media apps are you getting more results on? Because if you're getting almost no results on Snapchat, stop spending time on Snapchat. And if you're getting 80% of your results on YouTube, become a master of YouTube.
And just to add on to that, I would even add, if you want like to be successful on like any platform, the best way to do it is to focus solely on that platform. Like I find even for myself or for like a lot of other businesses where they go wrong is they'll be posting on say TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. They're like spread thin across platforms. So they're not getting any real results on any. But if you just focus on one, say YouTube, just focus on YouTube, like forget about the rest, then you'll be able to actually like start growing and get better results by doing that.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And the only thing that might be worthwhile to put your content on other platforms is if it takes like an insignificant amount of time.
Oh yeah, repurpose like, all of it. Like put them all on all platforms.
If it takes you barely any time, then just might as well do it.
For 100%.
But if you're spending a lot of time on stuff that's giving you no results, as obvious as that sounds, I feel like it is overlooked sometimes that people will spend a ton of time. Like I've done it on editing. I'm sure you've done it on editing where 100%. We spend so much time editing and it changes the quality of the content by almost nothing. And like in terms of like a noticeable thing that people see.
Remember that video that like I edited for your podcast that blew up? It was like 300,000 views or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember specifically like because I was like editing videos at that point. I spent like zero time on that.
Right.
Edit like zero effort.
One of the greatest
clips. It was like one of my like first edits. So it was like really it's shitty quality when you look back on it now. But I spent like zero effort, like zero thought. Oh, okay, just another video. Boom, and it blew up. Right. And then a lot of videos I'm spending like 2 days like editing and blah 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 and like nothing. Type of thing. It's really just like just goes to put in perspective like the importance of.
I feel like that actually comes to mind a really important thing about the 80-20 like principle when you're like trying to analyze the stats about well I spent 20 hours here and that led to nothing. Be a little bit cautious that you're looking at the right stat and you're not looking at the wrong thing. Like is it that you spent 20 hours on that? Or is it that you uploaded it to the wrong social media or at the wrong time or did the wrong caption? So you could easily target the wrong thing in your operations and be like, oh, that's the problem. But like, just be careful.
Like a fish isn't going to do well in a 100-meter sprint, but they'll do well in the water type of thing. Yeah. So like your environment matters. So you might not be doing well on TikTok, but you do great on YouTube type
for
of thing.
Sure. And maybe it was like literally the thumbnail that on that video that ruined all of the results. So like just it'll take some time. I feel like for me, I'm gonna have to throw a lot of stuff out there and then you get enough data and you can realize like, oh, that's the thing. I gotta stop spending time on that.
That should be the mindset. Like just to touch on this like real quick, if you're first starting or like putting out content, it's like your friend when you're first starting is data. So really the mindset is you're just trying to get as much data as possible, experiment, figure out what works, what doesn't. And then from after that first month of data, then you go from there and then you get another month. Okay, this is working. And eventually you'll start to figure out what works more and more. And then you'll start getting real results.
Yeah. I think that's a really good mindset to have when you're starting is like, all I want right now is data because that takes out a lot of the fear and a lot of the worry about, oh, maybe I'm not going to do it right. Yeah. It's like, well, just think about it as you are just getting more information and that's it. Like if you put 100%. Something out and nobody likes it, okay, that's info that you actually succeeded because now you have some info and then you do another video and no one likes that either. But you just have more info. And if you keep looking at it like that, eventually you're going to have enough info and probably enough experience and tweaks that eventually you'll start to get more positive results. What do you think your like the roles within your business would be like if you had to lay them out?
So I thought, well, I'm actually like already, so like I built out a team. So two projects at the moment I've built out teams for. But like generally speaking for my business, I'm not looking to, like I've given this a lot of thought. I'm not looking to grow or scale exponentially.
Right.
Like I'll be happy like I was like working as like a super small team or just with a handful of clients. Like I don't need tons of clients. I just need a handful of clients. So for this, I think maybe like 2 or 3 people max,
Right.
like working with me like as contractors, like other video business owners where we have like somewhat partnerships, or they're doing some editing, helping me shoot in person type of thing.
Right.
I have like an accountant I hire at the end of the year.
Right.
Like that's about it. I don't need like tons of staff or employees.
And
like
even
I've thought about this.
Even with minimal employees, like what would those roles be? Like, let's say it was even just you, like you have Zach, owner of Crown Heart Visuals, and then below that you've got
like the video editor and a couple, well, like even, so like this wouldn't be people I like hire on as employees, but I have like people already in my network, like 4 or 5 people in the city that can have on set for shoots.
Okay.
Like different roles, whether it's cinematographer or like CA, which is, what is it? Or AC, so like assistant camera, or like set design, production,
even actors, talent,
like talent, like that would be like even bigger network. So to answer your question, video editor, maybe like accountant / administration, like assist. So if I could have an assistant / admin / accountant, like that would be amazing. Like all 3, I don't know if that's a real thing. And then
that's the nice thing about owning your own business, is that you can create up whatever role you want. Like if there's a role you have in mind, you can post that. There's no like set 100%. Cookie cutter. Well, that title doesn't exist. Like you could make a guy, you could hire somebody who's a actor / editor / sales, like, because that's currently what you're going to be doing. I'm sure like in your business, you currently are the sales guy. You are the distribution person, the marketing.
I'm doing
so you're filling all those roles, and
I'm shooting, I'm editing like most of the stuff.
Right.
I didn't shoot last time, the last 2 projects. Just good. I'm slowly starting to delegate more and more.
Yeah.
And like build up more of a team. And I find the more I do that, actually the better quality the projects are, the bigger projects I can take on, and the better quality I can produce for the clients. Because like the more people you have on set on a project, it just helps. First off, like on the setup time, quite a bit. Because like you, when you're solo and you got to set up, and also you're hosting, like people are talking to you, but you're like, there's a million like different details on the camera you got to set up. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of work and takes a lot of time. So just having 2 people for that is like, that alone is the game changer. But just starting to delegate like these types of tasks. For my business, I don't think I would need like a salesperson or like type
even
of thing.
If you don't need it, you are the salesperson, right? Like,
100%. So yes. And also like I'm building up. So I've been focused recently on building up like my personal brand and focusing more on like organic content. Like, so I'm putting out like tons of content and building up a brand, whereas it's sort of like a salesperson, like a 24/7 salesperson,
right,
or like people type of thing that's operating like indefinitely. So basically like when I'm putting out content or building a brand, it's really, I'm focused on like providing value to the type of people I'd like to work with. I'm trying to get people to feel like trying to be the real me, so people feel like they know me.
Yeah.
Because people like working with people they like working with.
Right.
So like I don't think being like the best at what I do, which is like obviously great, is like a focus like that I'm taking, is not the only thing that people or business owners are looking for. People want to work with people they enjoy working with.
For sure.
Like if you're there with them, or like they enjoy like your type of personality, or they enjoy your communication, or they just like how, you know, you're respectful, professional, you show up on time, you're always like, you answer right away. Like that's a much bigger deal, I think, to a lot of people than like, okay, you have amazing work.
Right.
But say you have amazing work and you're not a good communicator, they feel like they're not sure what's really going on, or like they just don't get along with you, then they won't want to work with you again, type of thing. So like a big thing is building up, like my focus for my personal brand is really just being authentic and like showing off like behind the scenes how I work, this is what I do, and just like being the real me. Because like over time, I think this like already I'm seeing it, like I'm having leads and people reaching out to me through that. So like I think this is the future of sales to a biggest extent, is through leveraging social media and these tools, making videos. So by making strategic content, you don't have to cold call or get on a phone, or even anytime you do get on a phone call with a client, they already basically know, they've been consuming your content for almost like months to a year.
Right.
Like they feel like they know you.
Right.
It's like if you got on a call today with Alex Hermosi or like a conversation, you already probably feel like you know him in a way. Like you like,
Yeah,
I don't know for you, Alex, but
yeah, I know what you mean though. Like a lot
so
of
like
these people
Andrew
that you listen
Huberman
to a lot,
or Lex Friedman, if you sat down with him, you would feel like you have like you're like friends with him, but he doesn't even know who you are.
for sure.
Thing. But why is that? Because you've been consuming his content for a long period of time. You know, like it's, you know, in his podcast, it's not like he's not bullshitting. It's like, it's not putting on a show. Like that's the real him. You know what I mean? And that's what I think a lot of people connect with. And that's why that's why he's getting so many opportunities. But like that's his personal, you can say it's a personal brand in a way, even though it's not thought out. Right. Like that's his personal brand. You know
and I feel like the best form of sales is nobody knows you're selling. You know what I mean?
100%.
And so
that's what I'm realizing.
If you're coming on to sets and you're just an enjoyable person to work with, you show up on time, all these things that like you said, and
dude, not selling is actually the best way to make sales. That's what I feel like 100%. But also,
but
like,
I feel like you probably want to know, that you are selling, but you're just doing it in a great way so that it doesn't rub people the wrong way. Because the worst thing is when somebody comes and they're like, "Hi, I'm a sales guy," and right off the bat you're like, "Okay, you're gonna try to sell."
Or even
me.
cold outreach, like DM, like you're, like say you're DMing someone from a business page.
Yeah.
And you're like offering services. That's a sales DM. Already they're like, But say you were to like interact with their content over a long period through your personal page and you build a relationship. Oh, you start DMing each other. You like have common interests. And then now you're hopping on a call and you're like, oh man, like I have this issue with my business. Or like, oh dude, I actually offer that as a service. Right. You know what I mean? Now it's like, I thought like this is one of the best way to make sales is by having like real genuine relationships. And then you have solutions to people's problems, but you don't offer that solution unless you know you can help them, type of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it.
For at least like a service-based business. Obviously, like a product would be different if you're direct to consumer, because then you really got to be pushing, like people have to be aware of your product.
But
like
I feel like the same principle applies, that like the best sales is people don't realize they're getting sold to. Like I was reading a book called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, and he was the guy who was part of the PayPal mafia with Elon Musk and all those guys.
What's that? And the defense contract or the defense business, like the arms.
Yeah, I forget what it is.
Palantir. Didn't you found Palantir or something like that too?
But he was describing Elon Musk as a master salesman.
Really?
But you wouldn't necessarily assume the guy's a sales guy. But that's why he was describing him as a master salesman, is because he's so he obviously knows how to sell products. He's been so successful at so many businesses, but you don't feel like he's like a used car salesman type of vibe.
What do you think makes him such a great salesman?
I think at this point, obviously he has he's maxed out on like word of mouth recommendation, or like what do you call it? Like
when you call it social, like wouldn't it be
social proof basically? Like he's maxed out on that essentially. Like people know the guy produces quality stuff.
He's a household name.
Yeah. But I think
it's like his brand. He has a bit like it's basically like his brand, you're saying.
Yeah, he's built enough of a brand and enough proof and history so that people are just going to listen when he has like ideas coming up. But yeah, he's an interesting person to describe as like a grandmaster sales person, because when I think of sales, you think of someone who's a little bit more like high energy, like a bit more in your face. But I think that all is what throws people off. But yeah,
that's like a stereotypical salesman. So to me, what makes Elon Musk a great salesman is that he paints a picture and he sells the dream very well. Right. So whenever he's speaking about certain topics, he's almost like he's painting the picture so well, and he's speaking about the future and what we can like build and create and how fast we can go. Right. He's selling the dream type of thing.
He's very confident
all the time
in what he says. Like he'll say stuff like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to Mars," and for most people to say that, you'd be like, "This guy's crazy."
But to add on to that, he has that social proof.
He's not joking. Like he's dead serious that he's gonna create the next Tesla car in like a ridiculous time frame, and people believe him for that reason. Because he's, for one, he's like extremely intelligent. He's like a genius level, but But yeah, it's the social proof. It's all that stuff. But would you say that that would be a great target for somebody to think, okay, well, I know my business needs sales for one, because one of the biggest myths is that your product is not going to sell itself. And if anybody's coming to you saying, oh,
that's the biggest myth?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean that's the biggest myth?
Because if somebody comes to you and they say, oh, like my product's so good, my product, it's going to sell itself. What they're doing in that moment is literally selling to you. So
okay.
The product will not sell itself.
But you saying the product will sell itself.
That is sales. That is sales.
Is marketing and sales. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And so there's like so many products that they might be top quality, but they lack in the sales and distribution.
But are there products that do actually sell themselves, regardless of people saying, like this product sells itself?
Yeah, I'm
kinda
sure
like
you could find like
gasoline. Gasoline kind of sells itself. You could, in a way, you can say, right?
Yeah, I'm sure you could find some examples of it, but I feel like as a general rule, if someone's starting a business or owning a business, don't disregard sales because it is extremely important, and it's unlikely, let's say, that your product's going to sell itself.
100%.
Maybe there's a certain product.
Yeah. Unless it's a necessity like gasoline or water, hydro.
Yeah, and even
stuff
then,
like that.
if you're competing against other water companies, you're still going to have to sell. Or competing against other gas companies, you're still going to have to sell.
So it's coming down to marketing and
But yeah, for
strategy.
Sure. And so to go back to that framework a little bit, like if you have that sales, you know that is going to be a role that somebody has to play, whether it's you, someone's going to have to play the role of sales, someone's going to have to be in the role of editor. We can then start to think about, okay, well, what are the skills that people need in each of those roles? And if I'm going to be filling them, what skills do I need to acquire for this business to be successful? So like, I'll ask you, like, so you have your roles and you're currently filling a lot of them yourself. And eventually maybe you want to hire people to fill them. But if you keep some of them in-house, maybe that's fine. But so you have your sales, you have your editor. What are some roles that, like, first of all, surprised you that you were going to need to jump into when you started a business? And what are some skills that you are having to acquire to fill these roles all properly that maybe you knew it at the beginning or it surprised you?
100%. So I'll say the main thing is definitely probably sales and marketing. Mm-hmm. So one thing I'm realizing in my business, the most important thing, like, of any business is the business side of the business. So like, yeah, we do videos and we deliver like strategic content for clients, which is like, it's great to be really good at that. But being only good at that and not being able to sell or market yourself, you're not going to have a successful business or any business. If you can't make sales, you have no business type of thing. So that was like one of the big kind of like aha moments, like a few months in, realizing the business side of the business is actually the most important. So focusing more on that.
Yeah. And just to touch on that a little bit, because I like what you said earlier about how you've been spending, I think you're saying you're spending time, a lot of it in the business rather than on the business. And I think that's a good concept, that essentially it's the difference between being like the entrepreneur who's envisioning where this business is going to go, and then you, when you're describing yourself working in the business, I guess that means like you're literally on the shoot, you're editing, you're creating the product, but you're not necessarily thinking about where's Crown Heart Visuals going to go.
Yeah, because you can't do any like long-term or big-term thinking. You're just like focused on fulfillment and like that's it, like shooting, editing, doing all these things, but you're not going to grow long-term if you don't have, like you're saying, a plan or some sort of, if you're not doing like organizational charts or coming up with systems for like, okay, yeah, I want to hire an editor. Yeah. But once he's here, or like he or she, whatever, once they're here. What do they do? Yeah, like what do they do? Like, and now you got to train them and manage them.
And what makes a good editor? Like,
and then if they like, they leave or you're no longer working with them, now you got a new one. Now you got to retrain them from scratch, right?
Right.
So definitely having systems. I think like the big, like the zoom out answer to this question is having systems in place kind of for every aspect of your business, whether that's sales, whether that's fulfillment, whether that's marketing, but just having systems in place so that you're like not recreating the wheel all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think having systems is super, super important. And from one of the books that I was reading called The E-Myth Revisited. It's like about entrepreneurial myths.
Interesting name. I like the name.
Yeah. Somehow the book's done really well, but to be honest, like the title, I feel like
just
they did
the
a
first
bad
time
job
I heard it,
marketing
I didn't know it was about like, because E can be anything. It's like
Yeah.
E-Myth. I was like, whoa, what are you reading?
I forget what the subheading is,
Like,
but
it's
I
an
feel like,
entrepreneur book. Okay.
yeah.
Almost like it's like e-cigarette or something, like
Yeah.
electrical,
like electronic
could be
myth or
anything.
whatever.
Yeah.
But that book is
new
really
cigarette.
great. I definitely recommend it if anyone's either currently owns a business, starting a business, working in a business, whatever it may be.
Side hustle.
Yeah.
I feel like these days you kind of almost, sorry, like just like the tangent here, you almost kind of have to have some sort of a side hustle or something. Like with the economy, with the cost of living. I see a lot of people, like they'll have good jobs, but they're still starting side hustles, which is like, I love to see it, but it kind of sucks too that they have to do that.
It sucks if someone has to do it out of necessity, but I feel like one of the greatest things about why you might want to start a business is it's going to grow you like nothing else, I feel like. Because like we were talking about these organizational charts where you're going to have to be the salesperson, you're going to have to be doing marketing, you're going to have to be doing research, hosting, editing, all of these roles is going to expand you like not many other things are going to do. And because it's your own business or your own side hustle, you have the creative control. So it might be one of the most satisfying things that you ever do and grows you like nothing else. So
it forces you to grow like as a person. And that's what I found. So like, especially like specifically for sales and marketing is something I realized like pretty early on, I need to get good at. Like I wasn't good at, I need to get good at. And what I'm realizing is sales at the end of the day is just conversations, like networking, getting to know people's problems. So it's forced me to like, first of all, network a lot more, have more conversations, meet more people, get better at actually like helping people solve their problems.
Right.
So it's forced me to do this quite a bit, which has been great, like outside of business, but also for my personal life. It helps with negotiation. It helps like when you think about like almost everything comes down to sales. Like even if you're not selling a product, like say I offer for us to go to grab a bite to eat after this. Yeah. I'm making kind of like a sale. So it's like it's almost like I'm making an offer to you. You can say yes or no.
Where are we going?
Like, burrito, mucho burrito, or what's that burrito place that we got last time? Yeah, dude, those
burrito
it was
gringo?
like freaking.
They're massive.
It was crazy. What was it called?
Size of your head.
Gringo.
A mucho burrito or burrito gringo or something.
Yeah,
but yeah,
Coros would be sick. Yeah, but it's like
so yeah. If you're putting that on the table, bro, I'm buying.
Perfect. Yeah, I love that.
I'm buying the
deal.
You
don't want to split. You don't want to split.
I mean, I'm buying what you're selling.
Oh, okay. You're not paying. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. I thought you were paying. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. All good. But see, you understand my point, type of thing. Like almost like not just products or services. Like you're making sales. Like at the end of the day, sales is just a conversation. So like whenever you're offering something, you're selling something. You're selling yourself. Even when you're applying for a job, you're selling yourself.
Yeah, it's something that like you can almost continually get better at. But I think that's something that that's a skill. Like if I'm looking at the roles within a podcast, that's a skill that I want to improve is like how to sell the podcast. Because you could create a good podcast that might be, it could be higher quality than other podcasts, but you don't distribute it properly. You don't sell it properly.
Yeah. What do you mean sell the podcast? Would you mean like, to like for sponsorship deals or like sell it like someone owns it, the podcast or
yeah so just to be clear, like I mean like sell it to like sponsorships,
distribution
I feel like distribution and sales are somewhat tied in the sense that like whenever I'm distributing it onto a platform, I want to distribute it in a way that I'm like selling it and people want to consume it, you know what I mean? And so, because if you just take distribution without the sales, it just means you literally are putting it out there. But I want to put it out there in a way that people want to buy it, in a way that I'm marketing it.
But not actually purchase.
Not actually purchase the podcast or anything like that. But just like you
people want to listen.
Like
people want to give spend their valuable time listening to your podcast, which like is in of itself a form of sale.
Yeah, like it'd be similar to like if you just created an ad for a product and you're just about to upload it, you could upload it in a way that is a better way to sell it than than if you were to just like upload and say new video.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so like you can sell
Like copywriting,
So-
you need, yeah.
yeah, like the content didn't change at all, but you're just distributing it and selling it in a much better way. So I find that's something that I want to work on. But I feel like
I see what you're saying.
what's
Yeah.
kind of daunting about starting a project or a business is that there's so many different things that you could get better at. Like right now, I'm an extremely beginner editor, and that's something that I want to get better and more efficient at. Hosting, I want to get better at. Almost every single thing. But I feel like whenever you're starting a business, if you are putting your name down beside all these roles, think about all the skills that you're going to have to get better at, and don't be surprised, because if you don't set up any of this, 6 months in, you might be like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I was going to have to do so much editing and I don't know how to edit. 100%. So if you lay out this foundation, it can really help, I'd say, for any business that's just starting.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if not anything, just to set expectations. Because once you like do a chart like that, you figure out, okay, what roles are actually within my business, even though I might be doing everything at the moment.
Yeah.
But when I do want to scale or grow, like, where do I want to start hiring people?
And I think it's critical to start right. That's one thing that I was reading in the book by Peter Thiel called 0 to 1. He was saying like every startup only starts one time. So you got to make sure that you crush it.
Would that include like also setting up a solid foundation
100%,
for like,
that's it.
Like how you structure, like, okay, like for you, it makes sense to hire a video editor,
Yeah.
but maybe it doesn't make sense for you to hire like a lighting person or,
Yeah,
you know,
there's certain things, and I think you also you gotta think about the financial aspect of it as well. Like if you're just starting a business and you don't have a lot of money to put into it, you might have to fill every single role. And I think there's a benefit to you, the owner or the creator, of filling all the roles to a certain degree, because then if you are to ever hire somebody, you know what it takes to actually do that role. So if I've never edited and then I just hire an editor, and I'm like, oh no, edit it like that. I find that's one of the most annoying things is when somebody who has never done the thing, they're like, they're critiquing and saying, well, don't edit like that. Why don't you do it like this? Or why are you taking so long? And then, but you know, they've never done it one time.
you can't even manage people properly if you've never like done that position, because you
100%.
don't even know what you're talking about. So like if you say to like an editor, like, oh, like this, you need to change the soundtrack, like after they just edit like a full like 2-minute video,
Right.
Like, you know, that's not like, now you got to change the whole video. But if you have zero experience editing, you wouldn't understand what you're really saying. Like when you're telling them just change the soundtrack, everything's good. But really, like if you were a video editor, you understand, you cut the video to the soundtrack.
For sure.
You can't just change the soundtrack without restarting.
And we're not saying that you have to be an expert editor. And obviously there's going to be some things where you ask your editor to do something and you've never done it before. But I think in general, it's good to have some experience. It'll make your future employee feel better because they know, oh, you know what this takes to actually edit. And like what you mentioned about you wouldn't manage people well if you haven't done it. I think that's a super good point. And I think that reminds me of, from that E-Myth book that I was bringing up, what they were talking about is like it's kind of about setting up systems. You were saying that systems are so important, and I agree with that. And I think one of the things that's going to help set up a system is and also know about like working in versus on the business is to lay out kind of 3 main roles of any business. You're going to have the technician, you're going to have the manager, and then you're going to have the entrepreneur. And the way he describes it in the E-Myth is that a lot of people who start a business are the technician. And so what the technician is the person who works in the business. So you could take, let's say, an electrician. Right. So he's an electrician for another company. He thinks, well, I do all the work. If it wasn't for me, these projects wouldn't be getting done. 100%. Why don't I just create my own business? And what might end up happening is that they create their own business, but then they operate that business purely working out of the technician mindset. So all they do all day is focus on working in the business and the next project and what they're going to do tomorrow. But what they might be lacking is the manager perspective and the entrepreneurial perspective. So how do you find those 3 like perspectives would map out in terms of your business? And were there any challenges of like when you started trying to become more of an entrepreneur, more of a manager?
Yeah, so I would say definitely when I first started out, I was much more of a technician. Like when I first realized that like, yeah, sales and marketing is almost like the most important aspect of the business, or the business side of the business is the most important. That's when I started realizing like, okay, I have to be more of like entrepreneurial, or like I feel like anyone that got started in like my line of work, you have to be much more like an entrepreneurial mindset. And this is the most important mindset to have, as opposed to like just a technician mindset. Because
Right.
like you can be the best electrician, baker, videographer, whatever, but if you're not thinking in like entrepreneurially, then you're not going to have a successful business, or you're not going to be able to scale or go like very far.
Yeah,
Type of thing.
I think it's totally true. And the guy in the email, the thing he was saying is what he sees most people failing is, one, they don't have a plan at all. Like they don't write anything out. They just know that they're a technician and they have a skill, right? Like, because you could say, well, I'm a great editor. Why don't I just start my own editing business? But if that's all your plan is, then it's going to be highly likely to fail, and you might be more often than not in the 50% that don't make it past the first year. So if you become more of the entrepreneur and more of the strategist or the visionary, that's great. But you also don't want to be lean too heavy on any one of these three categories. So I find for myself, sometimes I can dream of where this podcast could go, or I can kind of be like envisioning what it could be, and a little too much in that regard, and not enough of the technician, and not enough of just pumping out more and more videos and more podcasts and just doing the actual work.
Would that be technician, or would that be the entrepreneur if you're pumping out videos?
That would be the technician, just like continuing to do the actual work. Whereas the entrepreneur would be thinking about, where do I want this business to be? And a great kind of quote that I'm going to paraphrase that I heard, it was from the CEO of IBM, or the founder of IBM. He was basically saying, like, when he started IBM, he thought about, what do I want this company to look like when it's kind of reaching its peak? And then every single day, what I'm going to try to do is work at this business as if we're already there. So you'd basically envision a business operating super seamlessly, extremely successful, a lot of employees doing high quality work, and then take a step back and look at where you are now, but try to emulate that high quality vision that you have.
Right. It's almost like you have that mindset of like you are successful, or like you are already like a big company. So even when you walk in a room, you already have that confidence. Like even if you're like making deals or making sales, if you like envision yourself where you're going to be and already imagine yourself there, you're going to have much more confidence like in your day-to-day of your business also.
100%.
Which I think, just that alone, I think is very valuable.
And you're going to know, like, more than anything, I feel like you're going to know where you're going or where you're trying to go.
Right.
Because if you just start be like, okay, I want a business, I just want to make money, but where is your company going? I feel like is an important question to ask. Like, what do I want to look like in 5 years, 3 years?
Yeah, I think it's important to ask like every once in a while, like, what are we even doing? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Or, like, where are we going? Type of thing. And like not just for like 5 years, but also for 1 year, but even like maybe even month to month, or like a few months down the road.
100%.
Because I think it's important for any like person in business to be able to take a step back every once in a while and just take like a big picture look of like what they're doing, and like get real. Okay, it's like I've been doing this for whatever 6 months. Is it working? Like if it's not working, then you got to change.
Right.
Like if it is working, maybe double down. But being able to take a step back and get real, get honest, and like be able to accept the fact that some things aren't working, some things are. Know what your weaknesses are, know what your strengths are, and this helps you plot the course for when you do plan that like 1 year, 5 years down the road.
Yeah, I think constantly like thinking about the 80-20 principle of like, what are the most effective things that I'm doing? One thing that I heard Elon Musk say is that one of the biggest mistakes that really smart engineers do is they spend time optimizing something that never should have been there in the first place.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're saying, you can kind of just be in like the technician mindset where you're just doing, and you have your head down, and months pass by and you've been working on something, but you forgot to take a step back and think, well, why are we even doing this project? And is anyone even going to want this project? Because that's something that I feel like could definitely happen is you say, okay, well, I have this skill. Well, I'm gonna show this skill and I'm gonna bring it to the world. But you forget that the main thing about any business is that skill you have must provide value to customers. It must provide some sort of value, ideally some sort of unique value to customers, and something that they want, and that's going to be valuable in the market.
You know what I see a lot of business, even myself when I first started, well, I think this like the 80 thing or the 80% thing was focusing on the website. Like putting so much time and effort on building the website, making sure it looks perfect, it looks great. And I see a lot of like other business owners spend a lot of time focusing on this, which is like, yes, it's important like to have a good website or to have one, but it's like you don't need a website to make sales or to have a business. Like I don't like the reality is most people aren't going to be checking out my website. So like when I first started, all that time I was spending on the website for what? I could have just been making sales, reaching out, or like doing videos for people and getting clients.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, so figuring out like, and this is like an issue I see for a lot of like small businesses. It's like figuring out what like are you spending time on that isn't giving you any real results or like value, or like, you know what I mean? I think it's like super important to be able to do that.
100%. That's a great example, and I think it's good for people to hear that you're gonna have these things where you're like, wow, I wasted so much time on that. Like, so to hear like you started and you spent a ton of time on a website that maybe didn't lead to a lot of results, that's good for people to know. Like, and even like the last time when I was editing the last podcast we did, I spent like a horrible amount of time on editing that.
How much? Like, I remember you told me, but like it was probably
like 40 hours. Like, it was like a lot of time.
Crazy.
And
you had so many clips from that podcast though, at least.
Yeah, that was honestly, like, after I did that was part of the reason why I'm like, okay, I got to take a break from doing these, because like that was so much time.
And the podcast episode was what, like 3 hours, 30 minutes or something?
Yeah, 3 hours, 15 minutes. And now that I'm doing another podcast, that is one of the main things that I'm going to try to be more effective and efficient at, is the editing, because I can't do that. It's like, it's not sustainable, because to spend like, I don't know how many weeks I spent on that, but I know consistency is so important, because if you're not consistent, people will forget.
Consistency, you mean with content, like being like online?
Yeah, consistency with like providing your content, distributing it out
and
there.
Episodes type of thing.
And episodes. So like it'd be similar to you. Like if you took a 6-month layoff, a lot of those great clients and relationships that you've built, they might start to fade away a little bit.
100%.
And so
well,
like,
if I'm not communicating with them like on the back end, like I could potentially maybe have relationships with them.
Yeah.
Like on the back end. But if I'm not posting, like say for 6 months, I don't post on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, like all the platforms I'm on, people are going to think like, oh, like maybe he's out of business, or maybe he's maybe he's sick or taking a break. But people aren't going to assume like, oh, people aren't going to be reaching out to get videos or for business purposes. They're going to assume like the business is probably not doing very well.
And with the amount of competition and content that's out there, it's so easy for people to totally forget about your stuff. Like if you're gone for, like, I haven't posted in a year. So my podcast is basically,
people don't even know you exist anymore.
Yeah, I've disappeared. Like all those businesses.
Yeah, like holy shit, you're still alive.
Yeah, I've totally disappeared off the map. But like, no, I some people are still downloading the old episodes, and that's a great thing about kind of having an online business, is that you create it one time and it exists for eternity.
Especially YouTube.
So you can get like, if you're getting paid for your videos or whatever, you can get paid for years to come from one content.
This actually might be good practice. So what would you say, since you started your podcast, like your business, like what would you say are the things that you've realized, like perhaps you've wasted time on, or things that you wish you would have focused more on as opposed to other things? Or like, are there things you would have changed in like how you spent your time with the podcast?
Well, I think for a while I wasn't really thinking about it as a business. It was more just like a personal hobby. It's only like really once I was preparing for this podcast that I started reading some books on business and thinking and then learning about what does it mean to have a good foundation. And I feel like now that I have that in mind, it's ultra helpful, and it also exposes a lot of the stuff that I would have been spending way too much time on. So like I said, the editing I've been spending way too much time on. The researching, I think I don't do that as effectively. Like I can get a little bit
Chat
overboard.
GPT.
Yeah.
You can throw in some AI potentially.
Use a bit of AI or just get a little bit less ambitious in terms of how much resources I want to consume. Because sometimes I'll be like,
you
oh,
bite
that
off
book
more
is
than you can
good.
chew.
I'm like, oh, but also that book would give a new perspective.
Yeah.
And then also that book.
I've
And next
noticed
thing
that
know-
you have like your whole place is filled with books, which is great, and like you read a lot of them, most of them.
Yeah,
but it's
I
I have that same like issue. I'll start a book and then start another one. And like it's like shiny
Yeah.
object syndrome type of thing.
And I don't even mind starting one and jumping around, but I'll find I'll get ahead of myself in terms of buying them. Like, I'll be like,
really?
oh, that book would be great. But then I don't read as much as the amount of books I have. So right now, and also,
But
for
eventually,
podcasts,
but it's
like,
good. Like so, like just like to touch on this, like the way I see it, they can be viewed as investments. So maybe you don't have the time to read the book now, but you know it's something you do want to read, you find value in, and whenever you have the time, at least you have that book,
right,
like on the bookshelf or like sitting on the coffee table.
yeah,
which is always what like one cool thing I found about coming to your place is every time I come here, there's always just like books like on like laid out on the coffee tables. You can tell what you're reading, what you're not. It's just a cool thing to see.
Yeah, I actually really like to not have the mentality of I got to finish this book and then I can go to the next book. I like to just whatever I feel like in the moment, being like, oh, I want to read a book about like the ego and consciousness or whatever, and then be like, oh, I have this book about stress or I have this book about business, and just kind of go with whatever I feel like. Unless I'm trying to prepare for a podcast, then I have to more just be like, I don't feel like reading that, but I'm gonna read it because like I got to prepare.
When's the last time you finished a book?
Well, so those two books, like 0 to 1 and the E-Myth, I finished those in like the last month.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay. So I got the 0 to 1 like about a month ago because I knew I wanted to do this podcast. Dude, yeah. And then the E-Myth I read about a month ago as well. So those two were for specifically to kind of prepare for this
episode.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not like the fastest reader or anything, but
well, pretty faster than me, that's for sure. You lent me those. I didn't even get to it.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I gave you like 2 days, but 3 days.
Yeah,
here's 3 books.
Yeah,
finish one a day.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'd say those things for sure. Just kind of like researching, especially also distribution. I wanna and I like to hear your thoughts on this as well, like because you upload a lot of content on different platforms. Distribution's one that I want to not get sucked into social media, because I can easily get addicted to social media, but
Impossible.
in this day and age, you have to post on social media to put your content out there. Like it's like by far one of the best ways to do it.
It's the fastest way to grow or scale like any business podcast, whatever it is.
But so how do you
like
fight
the
against,
way to do it?
Okay, I'm going to post this on Instagram, but I also don't want to, once I post it, stay on Instagram for the next hour looking at my analytics and how many likes and stuff.
I wish I had the solution to this, but this is something that I've been trying to figure out like for myself, but I always get sucked into the algorithm no matter what. So I deleted my Facebook app, which was good. I spent obviously no time on Facebook. But I found more time on Instagram.
Right.
And so recently I've been focused more so on LinkedIn, which is like LinkedIn is more of like a corporate. So, okay, LinkedIn is kind of like a wild, wild west right now. And I don't think it knows what it is. There's like people posting family photos. There's like some business posts.
It is a big mix of stuff.
It's like, there's like influencers. There's like, those posts like, oh, I just got to executive directorial blah 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 and like woo, and then everyone's like celebration, super happy, or I just got promoted to this, or I just finished this article. It's like kind of like super fake, but like everyone just trying to like level up their career type of thing.
Yeah, it's
like I get it.
It's similar to Instagram in the sense that you're gonna post all of the best things you had, but 100%. It's just more so business. It's gonna be like about, yeah, I got a promotion, or I got this or that.
And so just to touch on the point like I'm trying to make. So like where I was focused on like Instagram, then I started leaning more towards LinkedIn because more business to business. So this is where like a lot of my clients are, or the people I would like to work with are. Yeah. So I was focusing on this, and even though it's more corporate and business, like I started getting sucked into kind of like Instagram. It's like now I'm like checking LinkedIn all the time.
Right.
And it's like, that's my form of entertainment, which is like, it's like my Facebook is like LinkedIn, which is weird.
I find,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm spending so much time like just, and every time I open the app, so like watch, I'll open now. See, like I have like 3 messages, or almost every time I open it, I'll have notifications.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, I'll get excited, but then it'll just be like, this guy reacted to this, or they commented on this. So it's not even like actual notifications. It's like stuff to drag you back in. I hate how they mix it together.
Instagram always does that too.
Dude, it's
so-and-so just posted a new photo. It's like, all right, that's not a notification. Like
they're just dragging you back into the app. And then once I'm in the app, it could be like I'm actually using it for business purposes, but then all of a sudden I'm scrolling through the feed. Yeah. And I'm like, I just lost 5-10 minutes, like fucking useless. Mindlessly scrolling. So to like get back to like your original question, like how do you post on Instagram or like other apps and post and ghost type of thing?
Yeah.
I've tried it. Like you can try
it. A bit too?
Yeah. I've tried it, but I'm not sure there's like any solution to that. It's like if you're on a platform, just try to like use it. Try to post and ghost. Yeah. But it's gonna drag you in every once in a while.
Yeah, I feel like that's a much bigger thing, is just to try not to be addicted to social media. Because I find I'll fall down to LinkedIn if I delete all my other apps. Yeah. Meaning like
it's like,
I'm gonna delete YouTube, I'm gonna delete Instagram just so I can stay focused. But then I'll start looking at like the apps I wouldn't normally, but it's like lower on the hierarchy.
So
I'll just start scrolling LinkedIn when I'm like, I never used to use LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But because I deleted the more entertaining apps, my brain's like, I need to find something.
What do you think that is? You know what I think it is? I think it's we're filling that same hole that we had filled through Instagram, through Facebook. Now we're just using a different way to do it. So 100%. It's almost like, to me, it's like these apps are giving us something. And I think what that something is dopamine and like connection, like quote unquote, for like the people not on video. It makes you feel like you're connected, and also everyone's like comparing themselves. So it gives you that constant, like, what is it? Fear of missing out. Cause like I find out if like I'm not checking out, like I feel like I'm missing out on something, on like clients or business.
You're missing out, and they are designed as well to give you positive reward when you get those notifications. Someone comments, someone likes. It's really hard to not tune in.
Dude, it's even worse now since I started posting consistently for business and growing like my personal brand. Yeah. Because now I'm having some videos do perform really well, or like go mini viral or blow up. And now it's like there's that like, this is blowing up.
And you want to comment
tons of comments. Like this person reached, oh shit, like this person. It's almost like you know what I mean? It's not. It's like a game or something like that.
What do you think about this strategy? Because I was thinking like, I don't want to spend a ton of time on all these apps. I might designate, one day, whether it's a weekend or whatever, that's when I reply and that's when I comment on everything. And if it's not that day, I'm not looking at it at all. Like if I can actually successfully do that, do you think there's any, like, obviously the upside is you're not going to get pulled into spending hours and hours on all the apps.
It depends which platform. So specifically for LinkedIn, like this wouldn't be the strategy, because if you want to grow on LinkedIn, you got to be interacting with other posts.
But if you just do that once a week, do you think that's enough?
Do what? Like interact?
Yeah, interact. Like
if you want to grow, well, if you do depends what your goals are.
I guess
I could so what are your goals with starting to post and distribute content, like for the podcast?
Well, I just want to like engage with more people, have more people kind of give me their feedback on the podcast, what they liked, what they didn't like.
Build up the audience.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like more like-minded people attract these type of people.
100%. Maybe like network a little bit on LinkedIn, get more guests, all that stuff. So
I don't think it's a bad idea. Like setting 1, maybe 2 days where it's like, these are your social media days. Yeah. Where you reply, you comment, you interact, you post. But are you going to be posting in between? So like my pitfall, that I see is if you say Tuesday's your day, but then you're posting content on Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. When you go to post, you're going to be, you're in the app. Now, shit, you got a notification. Now you're checking it. You're like,
that's where the discipline will just have
you're getting sucked in, like no matter what.
Yeah, unless that's where it'll just have to be pure like willpower to like, or like just like quickly just reply and stuff. Like I see like a lot of people on LinkedIn just like fire emoji, this, that. And it's not meant to be like, I don't want to, I don't care about the comment. It's just like, there's just too much to do. And if you're posting on all these things, you're going to just like kill time. I feel like posting actually isn't the thing that's going to kill your time the most. It's like once you post, then you get sucked into scrolling. Scrolling is the deadly one.
There is a way to post, or you can schedule a post on Instagram. Did you know that?
I didn't know on Instagram.
So you need to start scheduling.
Yeah.
So on LinkedIn, I can't do this. You can
only
only
on YouTube. But Instagram, I had no idea.
So you can start scheduling your posts on Instagram. This actually, I think that's the solution for you.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like
right.
I think so. I think Instagram, that would be key because then I don't have to go on Instagram that much.
And I've been trying to do this on LinkedIn, but they only let you schedule one post.
Oh, okay.
Which is like,
they want to bring you back on purpose.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
There's so much money to be made. I actually did the math. So I had a video get like 8,000, 9,000 views like in one day on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Like mini viral. And then, so I checked on the LinkedIn ad center to see if I were to run an ad, like a video ad, to get that same amount of impressions, how much it would cost.
Right.
And it was between 560 to like 1,400 US dollars to get like that amount of impressions on an ad, like through LinkedIn.
And they would guarantee that? Like
they would guarantee like that this video gets viewed by 8,000 people. And you can choose the demographic, which is like the big thing about ads. You can choose like the like type of business, like men, women, age type of thing, which is a big thing. But for the video I posted, it was like around 80% of the people that viewed it, because it shows you the demographics.
Right.
It was business owners and like founders and CEOs.
Okay.
Because I'm very like picky with like who I add on here.
Yeah.
And also the content like I'm putting out, I'm speaking to business owners. So
that's definitely something that I want to consider, because like at first I was like, oh, I don't want to, if I have a good quality content, it'll get shared around and liked and stuff. But I feel like there could be value in paying for those social media boosters, especially because if somebody subscribes, that's not only a benefit for the next week or 2 weeks, that could be like the next 10 years that person subscribed and continue to add value. So like, let's say you paid $20 for that month, it might actually lead to the next 5 years of a benefit.
100%.
And so I might look into that for sure. And
I will say like one tip, if you are looking into getting to ads, and for anyone, I would recommend getting good at organic content first. Because
what do you mean by organic?
So like just the content you put out. So if you're putting out content on Instagram, whatever it is, and it's not performing very well, I would focus on like figuring out how to get your content to perform well before you start running ads. Because basically like what you're doing with ads is you're taking that content or that video and you're just blasting it to tons of people, right? But if it's not a good video, or it's not like no one's gonna like it, or it makes it diminishes your brand. Like then you don't want to, then you're blasting it out and you're not getting any results. You're basically like burning money and you're diminishing your brand.
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely like similar to like any other thing that you throw out there as a business is constantly reassess the data. Like you spent $20 on this and it didn't work. Okay, well don't do that again. But yeah, that is a good point, because you could think, well, I'm just going to promote all my stuff. But if your content is not yet at the stage that you want it to be, and it's not yet high enough quality, you could just diminish it, I guess. A lot 100%. Of people saw the garbage that you posted, I guess.
Pretty much, honestly, which is like the harsh reality. But one thing, so if I were you, like, I would just post, if you were to run ads, I would run ads with whatever content is performing really well. So if something does, like your video that blew up, that went viral, like that's telling you a lot people want to see this. So if you run ads with that probably would have got you a lot of like new members, or like new audience members. So if a video is doing really well, that's the video that you want to run ads with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you just run ads like that.
Yeah.
That's the strategy for your business specifically. That's what I would do.
Yeah. And I think that is that makes sense for any business. Like whatever's doing well, put the ads on those ones, not the ones that are bad.
Yeah. I think most, I'm not sure all. I think most probably.
Yeah. But I think social media marketing, branding, like that type of thing is definitely something that you're going to want to become like skilled at. You're going to want to know the ins and outs of LinkedIn, like how you have become the ins and outs of Instagram, all those little tips and tricks of like, well, I can auto upload on Instagram. That's great to know. One other thing that I want to touch on a little bit is like, how do you differentiate yourself from everybody else? Because although there's not a ton of people starting small businesses or businesses in general, there's enough to the point where there's so much competition on a lot of different landscapes. How do you, as your business, like what are some of the strategies you use to differentiate yourself and go from what Peter Thiel describes as 0 to 1?
So one thing I've noticed, like especially like in videographer or in the content space, so my business specifically, whereas like with the cameras and the quality, it's almost like so many people are videographers or photographers now. So what I've been focusing on lately is building a personal brand. And I think like to quickly answer your question, I think personal brand is the solution to that problem. It's where if you have like a lot of people that can do the same thing, like if anyone can produce like good quality content with their phone or their video camera, then what's going to set yourself apart from like the guy or the grandma next door that can do it?
Yeah, that grandma is going to kill you probably.
100%. That's why like everyone and their grandma can like take video and like do videos now. So that's why I'm invested in like building a personal brand. And I think this over the long term is what's going to set myself and my business apart, because people like through having a personal brand, like this is where people are able to discover me, who I am, how I work.
Right.
And like people want to work with me, not because of necessarily like just my skills, which is very important, but like because of who I am, type of thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a step one for everybody probably. And it's an easy enough step because everybody's unique to a certain degree. I guess like the second potentially more challenging step is, how are you personally different than other people? And it's like a complicated question, but like, or complex to answer. But yeah, I feel like you're going to want to differentiate yourself from all the other people building personal brands, because that is a pretty common thing
100%.
in today's era. Is a lot of people are building that.
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's like a growing industry. It's like a new buzzword now. I will say, to answer your question, each person is unique. So to answer your question is, if you're just being true, like your authentic self, no one can emulate or like do that. You know what I mean? So like no one can be the next Alex Hormozy. No one can be like the next Andrew Huberman, but you can be the next, like you are like Ollie Lewis. Like I am Zach Louis-Seize.
Yeah.
So the best way to do it, if you are building or like just putting out content, just be true, like be authentic, like be the real you. And I think this is the best strategy to, first of all, attract like-minded people and attract the people that want to work with you and that you would like to work with. Yeah, type of thing.
I think that's
just be like true to yourself, because everyone like in a way is their own niche.
For sure.
So like no one can be Ollie Lewis.
No.
Like, you know what I mean?
Except for AI eventually.
Except for AI. They can definitely emulate your voice. Yeah, and bro, the quality of the video, it's getting pretty good.
Yeah, that's a scary point. But I feel like once that point reaches, then like everything changes. But you might as well go for it. And I think that is like great advice to give people, is like just try to understand what makes you uniquely you. Right. What are the unique skill sets that you have? And obviously, like we said, think about the roles within your company or business and try to build all those skills as well. So, because you might not be able to totally rely on where you are at now, but like think about where you could be, and like I guess try to like stretch some of those existing skills.
100%. And I will say, just to add on to this, the companies that are blowing up or like brands are doing very well online today, it's where it's the companies where the founders are actually like making content or on video and showing kind of like their day-to-day, the BTS, and being real.
Yeah.
Because people at the end of the day, they buy from people. So the companies that are doing really well, that have like a huge fan base or a loyal audience, it's usually the companies where the founder is actually like on video, like talking and being real and like showing what they're doing, like talking about their mission, their vision, because then you're invested, like you're emotionally connected to that person. Like you're invested in their mission, you're invested in their vision. You understand their story, you understand their why, and now you really want to help support them in their product. Whereas like imagine you're selling this water bottle and your whole like Instagram page is just pictures of this water bottle. Like it's a great, I love this water bottle, to be honest. Yeah, there's a great water bottle. But nice. Imagine like their competitors was like a founder talking about how like their story about how they started this water bottle company. They're showing the process of like the behind the scenes, like about it. Who do you think is going to have, first of all, like the most like loyal fan base?
Yeah,
it's
I
gonna
feel like
be-
having a story that people can relate to, connect to, is really, really critical.
Yeah. This is what.
And sorry, just that
Yeah.
reminds me of just like how many different styles of business people can create. Because not everyone is going to necessarily want to be on camera. There's a lot of successful businesses where the founder, CEO is like totally not involved publicly at all, and
100%.
it's still extremely successful. But in those,
But they're not growing
businesses,
as like just to
they
push
might
back.
have somebody though.
They're not growing nearly
might
as
not be them.
They're not growing nearly as fast as the companies that are doing that though. So like the companies that are growing much quicker online are actually doing this. So like yeah, they might have a successful business, and like plenty of people do, even though they're not doing this.
Yeah.
But their competitors are growing like 3, 4, 10x, like compared to them, generally speaking.
Yeah, it might help. It depends on the founder, because some founders going on camera might actually do like damage to the business.
Yeah.
Because like you could think of some companies like, let's say the Bubbly founder. These are the drinks that we're drinking right now for the audio.
Is it Michael Bublé? Michael Bublé?
Michael Bublé, yeah.
He does like ads for them.
Does he actually?
Yeah, he's like their brand ambassador. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Which is like a smart connection.
Yeah. If you don't, because like if the founder CEO doesn't want to be on it, you might need somebody else to fill that role who can share the story of how the company was created and why the product's great.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be the founder, I don't think.
You're right. Yeah. As long as you are telling like the story and implementing some form of storytelling,
Right.
like about the company, that's able to actually, first of all, like connect you to your audience, or people can actually like kind of feel some sort of a connection that isn't just like, oh, it looks cool, or like I like the name type of thing.
Yeah,
because now when they look at Bubbly, they see the story.
They see Michael Bublé singing the Christmas songs.
And this is what like I find all the best brands in the world do very well. Whether it's Adidas, it's Nike, it's On Running.
Yeah,
it's what they're doing is they aren't highlighting their products all the time. When you watch their ads or their campaigns, the products is almost never there. They're highlighting like athlete stories, like LeBron James. Yeah. They're highlighting like the underdog stories,
the emotion
like of these athletes. And then throughout the video, like Nike happens to be the shirt they're wearing, but it's not a video about Nike. It's a video about LeBron James,
right?
Or like the On Running campaign was like Zendaya, like for that. But it's so like the best brands in the world is they understand that people buy and connect with people. So if they can tap into like a feeling of like someone striving for greatness, like LeBron James, which is what Nike does really well. Like LeBron James is number one. When you see his campaign, you get that feeling, that emotional of like, man, he's like the best. And then so now when you look at Nike, you're automatically making that connection. Like Nike's number one.
For sure, yeah.
Like
most people do not buy products based on like thinking logically about like, oh, those shorts are going to be really helpful or whatever. It's like, yeah, you see LeBron dunking on someone and you're like, wow, that's powerful.
Which is which is almost crazy to think, but that's like, it's very important to understand like humans, how we operate. Yeah. It's like you're saying, we're like very emotional
decision makers.
100%.
At the end of the day, like any decision you're making is an emotional one. Even though people say like, oh, don't make decisions based on emotion. I just don't know if the brain is wired like it's not wired that way. Like we just make decisions based on emotions.
Do you think
it could be subtle, but there's some underlying emotion probably?
You think 100% of decisions are made? There's like some level of emotion attached to that decision.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting if you think about like a small
every
little
decision.
Thing. Maybe we'd have to get like a neuroscientist to tune in, but
one of those
maybe,
like brain waves where you can see like the everything.
Yeah, like when I grab this can and I want to take a sip.
That's not emotional.
But is it though? Because I feel like a subtle discomfort, and that's emotional. Like I'm like,
okay. If the reason you're doing
thirsty and I don't like feel quite right.
Wait, thirst isn't an emotion though, is it?
No, but like associated with the thirst is like a discomfort or like an unpleasant feeling, kind of. Maybe, I don't know. Well, anyway,
we're getting lost. We're getting the weeds.
We'll get back to the business, but because like I feel like making sure you differentiate yourself is critical. And one of the ideas that I really liked from that 0 to 1 book is that Peter Thiel was saying that what you want to try to do is build a monopoly with your business, and that might seem like a grand vision, a bit too challenging or difficult for everybody. Mm-hmm. But if you're thinking that's way too crazy, like to have a monopoly, just downsize your market reach. So like an example of this is Facebook. When they first started, they weren't Facebook for the entire world. They were Facebook just for Harvard. When Amazon first started, he wasn't Amazon for every product. It was Amazon just for books. So Jeff Bezos started with just books.
It was just an online bookstore.
It was only books.
Right.
And Peter Thiel is saying, and he might actually know these guys personally, but he's saying like these are intentional decisions to start with a smaller niche market, because if you started off Amazon trying to sell everything, it would have failed in his opinion, and I can kind of see why. Like you're trying to be too much.
But does this apply to like all businesses? Because I feel like the majority, like myself included, I'm not trying to build the next Amazon or you know what I mean, I'm not trying to build the next $1 billion company. Like, you know what I mean?
No, yeah. But so like when Mark Zuckerberg has a monopoly on Harvard social media, he's not a $1 billion company. He's a small company just on the Harvard campus. So like, for example, your business, if you are the best fitness videographer, video production in Ottawa,
right,
you might have a monopoly on the Ottawa market.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So just if having a monopoly sounds like, oh, that's insane. Just
be the best,
way smaller and
be the best
way smaller.
In your
and
pod.
even if you've dropped it down, probably even go even more smaller, which is what Peter Thiel recommends. Is like go small enough to the point where you can dominate that market and start there. So if you're thinking, well, I want to be the fitness videographer and also like the videographer, I don't know, like grocery stores and this and that. It's
right, like weddings. And whatever.
And weddings. Yeah, you're going to have a tough time dominating that.
You're not going to dominate anything.
So shrink it until you can absolutely dominate that market.
100%.
And that could apply to anybody's business when you're first starting. And the reason why he says you want to have a monopoly is because when you're competing against so many people, it's just everybody is like fighting each other and they all have a small share of the market, and you have an advantage when you start something brand new. Like that's why his book is called 0 to 1, because what it means is you're going from something that existed 0 times in the world, and you've just created the first one. And so you created the first Amazon that sells books, or you created the first social network. Right. But you start small enough so that you can have a monopoly, and then that monopoly can grow. And I mean, he's created monopolies with Palantir or all like other companies, and PayPal when it first started.
Was he involved in Facebook? I don't think so.
No, but PayPal for sure.
Oh,
so that was one of the first ones.
With Elon Musk.
With Elon Musk. I guess they merged. I think Elon Musk had a company called X, and it was like a similar thing to PayPal. And they were competing. There was like 2 companies, I guess, so not a total true monopoly, but like they were competing 2 out of 2, which is still pretty small. And then they merged and created PayPal.
Oh, interesting.
I think they fought over the name a bit. Elon wanted X, but
I can see that
X
obviously
so much.
Yeah,
but
so something with him and X. Even isn't one of his kids' name like
Little X?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's wild.
So yeah, he's a unique character, but PayPal is the better name probably. Like X, no one really
100%.
knows what that means. So they end up
it doesn't mean anything. Even with Twitter, I kind of preferred Twitter as Twitter. People still call it Twitter too, even
for sure. And it's like I sent out a tweet, like I didn't send out an X or whatever you're supposed to say. But that just goes to show how powerful Elon is as just a figure. Is he can create something, name it something like X.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It'll still do extremely well.
And he could, like, maybe in like 5, 10, 15 years, maybe X is the platform, which is like the WeChat, the everything, which he's trying to build. Yeah. And at that point, we are saying like, oh, send me an X, or like maybe, but we're just early. You know what I mean?
And
it's early days.
Twitter was established for so long that it's going to take some time for people to stop calling it that. Because like, how long was Twitter been around? 10, 15 years or something? So
actually, probably just since like 2008 or something like that.
So to rebrand takes some time, especially for a company that large.
100%.
Yeah. So
monopolize your like build a monopoly, but it doesn't have to be like the world. It can be just building a monopoly in, say, like the clients you serve. Say, what is it? Lawyers that make $500 to $1 million a year. Like you're only focused on these people, type of thing.
Yeah, and ideally you actually provide a service that is totally unique, but that's one of the biggest challenging things that anybody could ever try to do. because that's what Peter Thiel describes as 0 to 1, creating something that was never there before.
In the service-based industry, that's very difficult. Like unless you're like an Uber,
that would be like like an Uber, something like that, where they created a product that did not exist before.
Right.
And the way, and I'll try to remember this exactly, the way that Peter Thiel describes a good thought exercise to try to come up with something that did not ever exist. Is
Google it. Just Google it. I would just Google it first.
Well, if you Google it, doesn't that mean it already existed?
Well, if it pops up on Google.
Oh, yeah.
If it's not on Google.
Yeah, so like literally do a check to see if it exists.
Yeah.
But like the thought exercise would be like, think about something that most people believe, but you know that to be untrue. And it's a difficult thing, but there could
be...
Like
the 5G radiation.
Yeah. But it's like... So most people wouldn't believe that, but there could be other things about nutrition, let's say, where like most people believe... At some point, most people believe that eggs like led to high cholesterol, or like there's certain things in certain fields where we think we figured everything out, and people start to be maybe,
especially nutrition. I feel like we're so far, like we don't know shit
before. Yeah.
Almost like everything they say.
There's conflicting doctors and stuff. So look at fields like that where like maybe education, even nutrition, certain fields where
medicine,
and it's difficult to know something is true and have everybody else, a lot of other people, be believing that it's something else. But that's where a lot of these unique companies will stem from.
It's almost like a fancy way of saying like be the crazy person, because you got to be like the person that's going against everything else,
right?
Like basically prove everyone wrong.
Yeah,
is almost like what that
or just recognize something about reality that other people aren't picking up on.
But then you got to convince, like, you can do this. And who was it? What was it? Like the famous astronomer? Was it Galileo, or like someone like they figured out something, but like no one wanted to accept it until like he was dead for like 30 years.
You can get like you can attacked by the mob if you do stuff like this. But that medical is definitely a great example. There was another example of the guy who first realized that washing his hands was saving a lot of lives.
Oh yeah.
And so like if you
that was by accident, wasn't it?
Yeah, I forget how.
Well, he did this on purpose, but then he realized, shit,
wow,
like, people are healthier.
Yeah, the diseases are going way down. So if you see stuff like that, and like those type of things in your everyday life might not be coming up that often,
right?
But I guess just try to have the mentality.
You can discover bacteria, discover it.
Well, like
figure out how to discover.
Like, he would have been in a position where he knew the truth, but most people did not believe what he believed, and so he's now in a unique spot to be like, well, I know this to be true. It's not just my opinion. This is absolutely true. And so if I were to make a business out of this on a long enough time span, once people get over the hump of like disregarding their existing belief, they will eventually do what I'm doing because I know it's true. And so it can't just be your opinion. It has to be something that you know is true.
Has to be based in reality.
Has to be based in reality, right. And something that other people are not recognizing yet, which is difficult. But he said that's a question that he asks like a lot of his employees in interviews, is like, what is something that that you know to be true, but most other people don't believe?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
And he said there's some like he considers some cheap answers where people will say like, oh God, I don't think God exists. He's like, well, it's hard to say if most people like, and that it
can't prove that.
Yeah, and so you can't know that to be true.
Yeah, it's almost like to me that would be a non-answer.
So that was
It's like I could say like I know God's real or I know God isn't real. It's like you haven't really said anything.
And he said he likes this as an interview question because not only is it a really challenging question that tests like how these people are thinking uniquely, but it also tests how courageous they are, because a lot of people might have an idea that they know to be true, but they don't want to share it because they don't want to get ridiculed.
They want to sound crazy.
So when he's hiring people, he wants to see like, oh, will you share with like something that you think is true, but most other people don't believe? Because it might offend a lot of people. It might get a lot of people angry, stuff like that. So, but still, that I feel like is a question that you can ask yourself over and over and try to come up with something. And I forget some more of the industries, but he was saying like, yeah, like nutrition. the innovation has not maxed out in every industry. So think about the industries where we do not have all the answers, and those
Medicine,
will be your best
nutrition.
bets.
I think after COVID, that was a big wake up call that like, okay, we don't actually have all the shit like figured out yet, type of thing.
And so I think that's great advice for people that are in certain industries. To be honest, I'm trying a tougher time to try to apply that to like you and I's type of business. But
actually,
what do you think?
Like, I would say that almost falls into like figuring out. So like you as a podcast or me as a video business, what makes me different from other people? And like when I start to think about this, I kind of got to start like coming up with solutions that they don't provide, type of thing. Yeah. So like me, I'm working with like health and fitness brands, like solutions specific to them. So like, yeah, there's tons of videographers, cinematographers, but there's very, very few that are specific like in the niche that I'm working with.
Right.
So like to me, that's my, what would you call it? Monopoly arena. Like I'm focused just on that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like, wedding videos are cool, but I'm not spending any time doing wedding videos type of thing. Whereas like I see a lot of videographers and like photographers or people like in the industry, they're like doing lots of work for many different industries, or like they're doing a podcast video and like this type of video and this type of video, which is great. Like if you're making money and you're making like have a business doing it, but you're never going to be the best or be able to actually deliver the best results in say like podcast videos or like this videos, because you don't really know, like you're doing a different thing every day. So you're not an expert in anything. Like you're a generalist type of thing.
Yeah. And like, I guess ideally you'd want to become the brand in Ottawa that if anybody wants to promote their new gym or like some sort of fitness attire or whatever it may be, you want to monopolize Ottawa to the point where people say, well, if you want to promote, you got to go to Zach. You got to go to Crown Heart Visuals.
100%. I'm not even looking at Ottawa. Like Ottawa's nice, but I'm looking more like, I'm not even focused on location specifically.
Right.
Like I'm just focused on being the best in this space.
Okay. Yeah.
So like, to me, it's like, if you're a health and fitness brand, you want to work with Zach. Right. Not like you're a brand in Ottawa type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean? Yeah.
Like that's my mindset. Like, I think, but I think through that, that's how I'll become the best in Ottawa and then potentially Ontario, Canada, North America, whatever. If I do want to be the best, it's not through like, oh, what's my competition doing? Like, oh, like maybe I should switch this up. I'm only focused on my work and like producing results for my clients. That's it. That's all I'm focusing on. And then through that, maybe I have an opportunity to actually become the best in Ottawa. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. And I feel like there could be a good thing to having your frame, like not just Ottawa, is that you're going to be not competing and comparing necessarily with other video businesses, but like you can look at them, and I guess, yeah, you would compare, but you can see, okay, well, what is there something that I could take from that business that they do really well? Or what is something that if I know as I'm growing, I want to be different from them. Like, I think it is important to assess who is currently out there on the market. Yeah. Because then you know how to differentiate.
100%.
And so you, I guess, should spend some time studying, like, well, for me, like, what other podcasts are there? What other podcasts are there in Ottawa? How could I be different?
Well, I think it's good to do some research on it, but I wouldn't get too stuck up on it. Like, I wouldn't spend, I don't spend too much time on it. Like, if I were you, I wouldn't spend too much time on it. But I've also, like, just to touch on this, I also found in my business, adopting a community over competition mindset has been one of like the best things I've done in my business, where it's like, yeah, I do technically have competition, but I'm actually like friends, or I'm doing calls with other video business owners. Like there's tons that I can learn from them or like offer value to them. Like I'm an open book. If I find something that's working, like in terms of sales, marketing for my clients, like I'm happy to share that to other video business owners.
Right.
So like I'm not gatekeeping anything. I'm like trying to help grow like other businesses and also learning from these other businesses too. Like it's been like the best mindset that I've been able to adopt since I've started, is not viewing people in terms of competition. It's like trying to build a community of like-minded people. Yeah. And this has actually been like a game changer, because it's allowed me to build out a team for my business and also learn from people that are like much further ahead of me in my business. Maybe like 5-10 years into
having
business.
A mentor could be like extremely helpful.
100%.
But I feel like that mindset you're describing is critical. Like you kind of need to have a continuous learning mindset, especially when you're jumping into a business that's going to require you to learn so many different skills. And also the community thing is amazing too. That
yeah,
you're
it's
starting to
fun.
develop
Like
that.
I'm making friends through it. It's just more fun like that.
Yeah, because
Like,
that way your job becomes more of like a fun activity rather than
right.
just straight up work.
Competition or like, yeah, I don't even think about like in terms of competition, I'm not even thinking about that like day to day. Like
Yeah.
I'm in touch with like tons of like other business owners. Like I'll have like maybe like 5 to 6 calls a week with like other like business owners, or like through the DMs. I'm constantly in communication with other business owners, whether it's video business, potential clients or whatnot. So, but like I'm not viewing anyone, like it's all like friendships, relationships, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's a cool thing to build out.
And you got to hope that you're in a market that can sustain so many different people. Because some markets are so competitive that like every single added person is kind of going to be like directly detracting from your business. Like you could picture like a street that has one pizza shop. Okay, well now you had another pizza shop.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be like, we'll be friends and community and stuff. And you might actually be friends with them outside of the work. But then another pizza shop gets added onto that street and you're like, okay, I'm literally losing sales per pizza shop that keeps getting added onto the street.
Yeah.
So knowing the timing when to jump in and knowing that is really important as well. But I really do like what you're saying about the community thing, because like that reminds me even what Peter Thiel was saying in that 0 to 1 book. He's saying like, as a startup, you're so unlikely to succeed if you're just doing it alone. And this is him trying to start up a company like PayPal. It's maybe a bit more complicated than like a podcast or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that principle is still really important. Like trying to build a community, and like even like the fact that you're in this kind of content creation business, I really find that enjoyable to know that like I'm creating the podcast and like you're not doing the exact same thing as me, but you're in kind of the similar mindset, similar like
ecosystem.
Similar ecosystem.
100%. And it would be like similar mindset, because you are focused on like, you're thinking about distribution, you're thinking about social media, you're thinking about video.
Yeah.
Like these things are important, and like this is like kind of like my business. This is actually how I got started in video business.
Right.
It's like through helping out, through like doing podcasts.
And how I got started in video was when you did the video. So
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's where the community all ties in, and it's a win-win. And bro, I think that's the best way to do it. Not just like for business wise, but it's also made me a much better person and it's helped me become the best version of myself, because when I'm learning, like I don't have all the answers. So when I'm able to learn from people that are successful, that have solutions to the problems I'm facing, I'm like leveling up much faster than I would. Right. Whereas like say I was like alone and like focus on the like my competition, I'm not going to be that good. You know what I mean? I'm going to be stuck in my head. It's not going to be fun. Like it's going to be, you know what I mean? Whereas like this, like I'm like building like legitimate friendships, relationships. I'm learning a ton. It's much more fun, like working like with people, you know what I mean? Like actually like building community, not just online, but in person. Yeah. Like it's like almost like I'm building the type of life like that I want to live. Like even though it's like I'm building a business, I'm also building a life within the business, right? It's like all kind of like merging into one. And that's which is crazy, but it's like that's kind of what's happening.
That's pretty amazing too, because that is literally like the pinnacle when people want to start a business, is like do what you love, and you won't work a day in your life, or that something 100%. Like that, right? So if you find a way to structure that foundation of your business so that not only are you going to be working with people, you're going to be working with friends, you're going to be working with people that you enjoy spending time with. Mm-hmm. You're going to structure it so that you know who's in what role, what skills you need to develop, all this stuff. And you could actually, I think have a much more satisfying life by pursuing a small business or a big business, whatever size. 100%. It'll just grow you like nothing else. And if you can enjoy yourself along the way, I feel like that is the absolute peak. Because like you said, a lot of time people they underestimate how much work's going to be involved. But I think also sometimes people can excessively like exaggerate how important it is to be like grinding yourself to the bone. because I think if you work smarter and more efficient and effective, that should be your priority rather than focusing on how hard you're working. Focus on working effectively.
You shouldn't be bragging. Like I hear a lot of people, it's like part of the culture too, like bragging about how much work they're putting in or like working on the weekend.
Yeah.
Which like, okay, great. But it's like,
what, do that, great,
there's some people
that.
work maybe like 6 hours a week that are getting more shit done than you are. That are being like, if they're working on like 6 hours, like on more productive shit, like you might be like me in the beginning, that would have been me. It's like spending hours every day, like on the website or on this, or like editing this at like this little thing that no one's going to see at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Like these are time wasters.
Yeah.
Like these are like, I could have been bragging like, oh, like, dude, I spent 12 hours today working.
Right.
And it's like, well, great. Like what'd you get out of it? Like, it doesn't mean anything if you're not getting like, you know what I mean?
And it's tough to just jump right to that like mature business phase. Like I feel like everyone's got to go through that adolescent phase or whatever.
Yeah. I would say like from what I see is like expect like the first 1 like to 3. I'm doing like very generous with the 1, but 1 to 3 years, like expect to work your ass off for like a big part of it type of thing. Like,
I think
you know
just the amount of new skills that you're gonna have to learn is just so much. And yeah, I'm finding like I don't even setting up the cameras, like stuff like that. It's great. That's another great thing to have like people that are kind of in the industry, because like you know what all the settings mean on the cameras.
Somewhat. And these lenses threw me off a little bit, but I try my best to help out where I can.
Yeah. Well, much appreciated.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think we'll wrap it up, man. Appreciate you coming on the pod again.
Thanks for having me on, brother. Yeah. Pleasure. I look forward to the next one already.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for having me,
everybody.
Bye.